everyone, and welcome back to Tutorials of Tone. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. Today's topic, the infamous Papa Het clean tones that you hear throughout all of their amazing stadium tours, and you've heard on all of their recordings as early as Ride the Lightning up to now, and all of its iterations. We'll talk about all the components that go into that, all of the nuances as the tone develops throughout the ages, and a lot of the variations, different modulations and things, different things to help you get the most out of your Fractal rig, or perhaps another modeler. And whether you're using active pickups in a Snakebyte sort of thing, or you're using passive pickups, we've got approaches for you. So let's dive right into what makes this tick and get into this. So here we have the layout for our Het Cleans preset. As you heard in the intro, everything is already dialed in. Everything is just the way I like it to get the most out of my Fractal rig and to get it as close as I can to that modern live Metallica clean sound that Jamez gets using his ESP Snakebyte or any of his wonderful guitars in his arsenal. For this video, I am using an LTD Snakebyte with an EMG headset pickup set. This is a great way to get started on your tonal journey. But if you don't have that, don't worry. There are plenty of other guitars out there and you can achieve tones just like this. We're going to dive into that near the end of the video. Or you can scroll ahead for a passive pickup set. We'll get there. First up, let's talk about all of the components and how we've dialed in each of them and some tips and tricks that may help you dial them in on your rig as well. First up, we have our input block. Everything here is stock except the threshold of our gate is at negative 47.5 dB. It's where I like having it as my noise to note ratio for my Morse Music Man guitar, my main axe of choice. This is just a holdover from that. Sometimes I feel I need less of a gate, or maybe it's off. Sometimes you need a little bit more. Tweak to your taste and specifications, but for now, everything else here is stock. Now next up, we have the most important component of this, and one of the most consistent parts of Jamez's rig through his entire history. The Roland Jazz Chorus, the Jazz 120 in the Fractal system. This amp is featured on almost every Metallica record, save for maybe the first one and the most recent, as of the recording of this video, 72 Seasons, which has absolutely no clean tones on it whatsoever. Crazy. This is a hallmark. It's a thing that has created so many wonderful clean tones across the ages, from the 80s up until now, and beyond, well into the future, of course. Fun parts about this amp are dialing it in using the Ideal tab. Now, a lot of you are purists. You want to go straight to the Tone tab, dial everything in just as you would on the front face of an amp. That can work, but a lot of times in the Fractal system, it doesn't work. And we're going to talk about why. Well, when you start out, we're going to reset this block. Reset current channel. Notice a lot of things moved. A lot of them. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now, as you can hear, that is not what we're going for. It's not even a clean sound. With this master volume at 10, we're really pushing that speaker. Even though this is a digital amp, a solid state amp, we're really pushing it to its limits. It's really flubby. It doesn't have a lot of great definition. So, if you were on the Tone tab and you wanted to take some of that bass out, maybe bring in some mids and some treble, that's fine, but it may not get you where you need to go. We still have a lot of that woof. The ideal tab to the rescue, we bring that down to 5. Now that is much cleaner, but we need a little bit of a volume spike because there's a huge dip. You can offset that with the level tool, but I find right around 7.5, 8, you can still get the most volume out of the clean amp with some headroom to keep it clean. And there you have it. That is how you dial in the front panel using the Ideal tab. There are some other ways to go about really getting in after this and getting that Papa Het thing. Going back to the original settings that I have for this, not a lot of tweaks here. I've taken the bass down considerably to 2 3/4. Mid stayed a little bit of bump on the treble, but do notice that there is a cut feature, which you're not going to find on the front face. We've brought up a little bit of presence and a little bit of depth. So I'm going to take all of these, turn them off. We're going to hear each of those. Now, as you can hear, each of those moved ever so slightly, but it really impacts the overall sound, especially if you're with studio monitors or headphones going direct in. These little tweaks are going to get you that much closer to the original thing. We also have a little bit of an input EQ going on here. We have a low cut of 60 Hertz and a high cut at 10K to just lower that bandwidth, minimize it a little bit, carve out some of those lows coming in, take off a little bit of the high end, and just keep that nice, really solid guitar frequency range. So you can get the most out of the mix, you can help your sound guy, and you can just get back to playing these super cool, super fun parts. We've coupled this amp with its matching cab set. I put a 57 and a 313 on there. Everything here is stock. Stock IRs, stock levels, things created equal. Let's just hear the 57 by itself. And perhaps the 313. Which gives us a lot more of that low end. So don't be afraid to use these cabs as active EQ. Maybe you want a little bit more low to come out with your particular guitar. Just take this 57 level, drop it a few dB. Or if you need a little bit more clarity, a little bit more of that 57 mid-range presence, take the 313 down a bit. In our preamp tab, nothing to speak of for the low cut, but we do have a 10K high cut on our cab. We're going to jump over now to the reverb. I know it's not the fun part. We're getting there. The reverb I've chosen to use for this is the studio reverb. The time is at 1.86 seconds. And everything else here is stock. I've run this in parallel. That's how I typically run my spatial effects. But you could, in essence, run this in series and just change your mix and level knobs accordingly. There are other different reverbs in here that I've dialed in. We have medium plate, again studio. We have a little bit of the sun plate, big and spacious, almost twice as long. And we do have the London plate. Now each of those is going to give you a different sort of thing with your clean sound. I personally went with the studio vibe because I didn't need that ambience bleeding in. especially when there's other things taking up mixes. Especially if you're doing Metallica stuff, you've got another guitar player, you've got bass, you've got drums and vocals. All very important. You don't need all of that wash. I like to keep it simple. There we have it. Now here's where stuff gets fun for me. It's utilizing this chorus. Now here I have 4 different choruses dialed in. I use 2 of them in this preset, and I switch between them depending on how I feel or what the specific part needs when covering Metallica parts. What you've heard thus far is the Dimension 2. Everything here is stock. It just works. It sounds great. I've been loving it. There's a little bit of a low cut. I like to run low cuts on choruses especially, and more specifically when they're run in parallel. If you don't do that, you run the risk of overflubbing your tone. So with it, and without the low cut. Quite a difference. And when you're sitting in a mix, you may not be sitting in a mix. Someone will feel that low rumbling. They might shelve you, and all of the bottom, all of the beef of your tone is gone. This is one quick way to just keep the chorus between 200 and 10K. It's a really nice set for that chorus. Let the guitar speak there, and you can get back to the fun. Now, as I mentioned, there are other choruses that were involved. So we also have a digital stereo. Very pronounced. I mean, you can hear that. Virtually stock here as well. Nothing to speak of for the low cut on this one. Then the other one that I like using, the Boss CE2 or Japan CE2. We have a little bit of low cut, only 120 Hertz, and some high cut. We also turned the drive up just a hair. That sounds like this. And compared with the Dimension 2, very similar in their high cuts, but not the same as with the low cuts. And just a different waveform, a different algorithm. And last but not least, we have the 80s style. This was just for fun to mess around with. Not something I've been using. The Dimension 2 gets me there. And it's more pronounced. The Boss CE2, less pronounced. And the digital stereo is all the way there on the chorus thing. Very cool. You can set the channels to a different foot switch. You can just use which one you like. Choruses are simple but so effective and a huge part of James's tone live and also in the studio for cleans. But just for the sake of argument, let's hear what it sounds like with no chorus. And that really comes alive with this particular chorus. It just does. But not every clean part needs or has chorus on it. That's all right. Dial this into taste. Find the chorus that works best for you or the sound and era you like of James the best. And go nuts. That's the beauty of this. And you can save them all in a blocks library. Just have them on ready for whatever you may need for your gig. Now, I've been jumping around a little bit in order of importance, but something I feel is super important for getting a nice, clean, consistent clean tone is the compressor at the beginning of the chain. When I was first dialing this in, I was having a lot of notes jump out, in particular, the open G string. I'm 2 now and a half step here, so G flat or F sharp. And it was sort of an issue. I figured, let's just throw my blue comp, mostly stock, I take out the auto makeup gain, the release time drops a bit, and the level goes up. What we've heard up to this point is this compressor being active. Let's hear it without, and then bring it in. Now, as you can hear, bringing that compressor in really starts to level things out, and when you're arpeggiating things and playing a lot of single note clean parts, it's really important to keep everything nice and consistent so you're not having notes pop out, because maybe that's not what you're looking for. You can dig in a little bit more on certain things and bring them out as needed, but you don't have to worry so much about plunking something and it shooting up 5 dB when you don't want it. This really helped me. I'm sure there's a compressor at the front end of James's chain, but that's not your thing, and you're super consistent in your right hand playing, and you don't want that. It's very easy to just bypass and not worry about it. All right, so far we've dealt with everything on this grid that's illuminated. Dealt with the compressor, the amp and the cab, the chorus, and the reverb. There's some fun stuff in here that we haven't quite gotten to yet. And James isn't just a chorus clean player. Every now and then he brings in a flanger, or he brings in a phaser. So let's hear Bleeding Clean. We all know what that is, but we're not going to play that. So let's play some single note lines and some chords. You can hear what his phaser, very slow moving, sounds like with all of the other components still engaged. Now, as you can hear, really slow moving phaser, just a standard phase 90 going on here. We have our rate at 0.28 hertz, again very slow. Our depth at 3.5 out of 10, and our feedback at -33 1/3. I brought up the tone just a little bit to bring out the highs of the phaser, and the manual is at noon. The mix on this one, and the mix on almost every phaser I have in front of the amp, which is important, is 37.5%. I like doing that just for the sake of not having too much phaser. If you want more, 50% is equal phase, equal amp, or so they say. To my ear, it just feels overphased. This feels like a good natural sound to me. Within our expert tab, I haven't tweaked anything. This is all stock stuff. Same with expert 2. Just a very simple phase 90. I mean, it was one knob. Use your ear. Go for it. It's gonna be good. And last, but certainly not least in our modulation category, the flanger. I personally love having this exactly where you see it, at the end of the chain, but right before the reverb. If you were going for the old, let's just flange the entire tape, mix, whatever, I would put that at the end after the reverb. This is just where I like having it for guitar tones in particular. Do as you please, do what suits you. This is where I like it. Now, we have titled this aptly, The Clean That Should Not Be. Metallica fans rejoice, we all know what this is after, right? I went for, with the stereo jet type, the Live in Seattle from Live Shit Binge and Purge, and this got me the closest that I could get to that within this field, and I really enjoyed it. We're going to compare all 4 of these channels. I tried to keep everything with the rate, depth, feedback, and manual as close to the same as possible. and having the LFO phase also the same. I haven't tweaked anything in the More tab on any of the flangers, and this will give us the most accurate representation of A being, or ABCDing, if you will. Here is the most extreme example. We're going to use both pickups for this type of modulation instead of just the neck. This is the stereo jet. Have the MXF 117. Now, as you could hear, that stereo jet flanger is the most extreme example. Very macabre, ominous, brooding, Vitruvian, cyclopean, any other Lovecraft adjective you'd like to throw in there. Very, very wonderful, especially if you're going for that live in Seattle sound. I'd say the next most extreme would be the Electric Mistress at these settings. Of course, you can tweak them. Then the others are a little more subtle. The BBF2 and the MXF 117. So just as I had done with the chorus and the phaser, I really tried with the flangers to only use things that I knew he had used in his studio and live rigs throughout the years. A lot of this information I found through Equipboard, message forums, photos, and the incredibly invaluable resource that is Messengers. It's the guitar book, an anthology of all of James Hetfield's guitars throughout the years. And not just guitars. They go into amps, cabs, the Fractal gear, and some insights from he and Chad talking about how they dial things in, how they use certain effects, amps, cabs, blending, you name it. And so incredible. If you're a fan of Metallica, James Hetfield, the clean sounds, or perhaps just guitar tones in general, as someone watching tutorials of tone, this is a book for you. Check it out at the local public bookstore. Thumb through a few pages. If you like it, buy it. It's super worth reading. Very, very wonderful. Shameless plug. But that is how we dial in the clean sound using these EMG headset pickups. Now, we also have the option for you people out there who don't have active EMGs in your guitars, and you're going, but Alex, I too want to have an amazing clean tone like James Hetfield. How do I take what you have here and adapt it to my passive pickup guitar? Well, let's just do it. So here we have our moderate output passive pickup guitar, the Steve Morse Music Man. This is my #1 axe. This is what I use for 90% of my studio and live work. But it's definitely not a headset of EMGs in a Hetfield guitar. It's just not. And the output is our very first consideration. It's just not going to be as loud, right? we're sitting anywhere from 6 to 10 dB under where we need to go. Now there are a couple ways we can go about this. The first of which being the level control. We are going to add 7 dB. Just see where that lands us. Very nice. Very much what we're looking for. But as you can hear, the tone does change. There's a little bit more top end on the Hetfield, just with the active pickups. There's a little bit more presence, if you will. So we have a few options. We have the bright switch here. You can change the picofarads, and the bright cap, you can make it brighter or less. So let's just dial that in. Maybe more than what we bargained for. So perhaps the bright cap is not what we want. Perhaps what we need is more presence. Try that. So as you could hear, just moving two knobs, our presence and our level, got us really close to that Snakebyte thing with the EMG active pickups, but now playing with passive pickups and a moderate output setting. Now, that's all well and good, but every guitar is different, right? And maybe you're not looking to always play Jamez Hetfield parts, as fun as they are. Maybe you're just trying to take this amp and its clean sound and incorporate that into your playing, into your rigs, your sessions, whatnot. The best thing you can do is use the blocks library. So what you could do, you could go in, save whatever settings you have. Say we want to save Het Clean Blue. Just put it in parentheses. Now when you need it, there's either a drop-down menu or a pop-up window. You can click Het Clean Blue. All of your settings pop up. Say you need stuff for your Hetfield. Already saved. You can jump between channels. You can have these on multiple presets. Keep things consistent. When you build a new preset, keep all of your levels the same. Keep all of your output and your EQs as identical as you possibly can make them. This is an incredible tool and should not be overlooked. Utilize your blocks library. Once you make all these tweaks, save them. Now we've discussed all of the components of our Het Clean, and we just had a brief aside about saving our things into our blocks library when we're switching guitars, when we finally get things dialed in, so we can always come back to it, yeah? Well, what if you want to come back to this, but maybe you don't want to incorporate things into a dark, brooding, moody, sort of melancholic thing? These cleans are so great for happy music or things in major keys. You can use them anywhere. For example, maybe you want to put some Plex reverb or delay in there. Get some nice spatial panning, some 2290. Sky's the limit. This clean tone is an incredible jumping off point for so many musical avenues outside of the Metallica thing. Feel free to use this and to use it as a jumping off point to your next musical endeavor. Well, there you have it. The illustrious Papa Het Cleans, fully at your disposal now. Whether you're using a passive pickup moderate output guitar such as this, or you're an enthusiast who owns a Snakebyte or a Vulture and has an EMG headset with active output pickups. The world is your oyster. All the tools are laid bare here. So let's recap. get your Roland Jazz Chorus 120 amp, go to the Ideal tab, take down that master volume to clean up the amp, then scoop out some of that bass. There's an excessive amount. And or use the cut switch. Just get it out of there. It's still going to be full and rich. You can bring some of that back with the depth knob, and it'll sound incredible. Now, go to your cab, pair this with a few cab IRs. I recommend pairing it with the 212 Jazz 120 cabs that are stock within the Fractal system. I used a 57 and a 313, but find your favorite IRs, blend them, EQ them, pan, whatever you want to do. Get it sounding the way you want, because this is 90% of your tone throughout all of this. Then, it's the garnishments. The compressor to keep the transients out and to keep everything nice and smooth, nice and even. Then you go to the reverb, just give it a nice little breath and some life to these amazing tones. And then, of course, adding the modulation. The chorus is what brings us here. That's the definitive sound, but phaser and flanger also equally viable. And of course, this is just a jumping off point to all of the amazing things at your disposal within the Fractal system or outboard gear. You could have pitch shifters in here, plex delays, ping pong delays, shimmers, whatever you want. We are standing on the shoulders of tonal giants here, Jamez Hetfield being the one in question at present. These are the things, and I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did, diving in and dialing this in as much as I have. If you enjoyed this video, there are plenty of other videos throughout the channel. Fractal 101s, other tutorials of tone, gear reviews, playthroughs, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.